social activity. And ideas for a study starting in the fall.
Well, I hope
I thought I had you on. I do.
Okay.
Is your green light on?
Yes. Oh, bring her up. Okay, I'll just talk louder. I hope everyone enjoyed the food. We have, thanks Brenda, we have this church, and I'm sure all churches and everywhere, all of you ladies are excellent cooks. And I planned on trying to do a cookbook thing this year, but guess what, I didn't get time. Maybe next year we can do it, hopefully. Boy, there were some salads there I'd love to get recipes for. Okay, well our speaker tonight is Mayarette Jorgensen, and she's from Minnesota. And she's a professional musician, Christian writer, teacher, and author. And she's recorded 24 CDs. Her original music is about life, faith, and the daily struggles in life. She plays piano, guitar, trumpet, and shares all styles of music for all ages. Some of her songs are tongue-in-cheek humor about our walk with God. Mayarette has been speaking, writing, and sharing music ministry for over 30 years, and I can't believe it's 30 years. You don't look that old. She's a mother of 3, and she was telling us today that one's graduating from high school and one from college. And your daughter is what year of school? Is she one that's graduating?
Yeah, I'll tell about it.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. She has written 6 books with fun titles such as Bumps on a Pickle, Dancing with the Washing Machine, and her title tonight for her program is Be a Babe, Be a Blessing Every Day. And before I forget, there's a basket on the table as you enter for our free will offering for tonight for our speaker. So everyone, please give a warm welcome to Mayarette.
Well, good evening. Good evening. So, why doesn't anybody sit in the rows? I didn't even have the one salad had onions in it, and somebody was commenting, and I didn't have that one. But I am glad to be here with you tonight. We're going to do an array of different things, but to warm you up just a bit, you've all eaten, so you're comfortable, right? But can you, what we call blurt out? You're not sure. It's not burp. I'm sure some of you could probably do that too. We're just going to start with doing some instrumental old hymns, and it's going to be your request. Please don't stump the piano player because they're videoing it, and then you'll prove that I can't remember what I'm supposed to. But I like to just sit and play, and we don't do that enough anymore. I don't do that enough anymore. So you're going to tell me what to play. So I'm going to pick on Joyce right off the top. Joyce, throw me a hymn. Thanks, Joyce. Now someone else, up one on Joyce. Somebody else. that saddle and
What a friend we have in Jesus.
Thank you. That's my favorite song.
Lord, can you hear your children pray?
I thought maybe you threw a Green Bay Packer hymn in there, but maybe not.
Count your blessings.
There's power in the blood. I missed that.
There's power in the blood.
Is there?
Amen.
Okay. If you can stand, would you stand with me? Let's just worship a little bit. Come, now is the time to worship. Come, now is the time to give your all. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your God. Come. Okay, now so many times we come to church hungry. And I know you're thinking right now, okay, we're full, we can't eat another bite. But sometimes we come to church and we're full of stuff that distract us. We're full of worries. We're full of like our junk drawer, just stuff. God wants us to come just as we are. So as we sing that part again, just empty your minds of the junk drawer. Come, now is the time to worship. Come, now is the time to give your all. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your God. Lord, so often we come, but we're really not here. There's so many other things that take our attention and take our energy, and we walk into church and we're just tired and we're exhausted, and we don't have any energy left for our families, we don't have any energy left for you. So tonight, just let us worship. Worship with joy, worship with music, worship with laughter. Lord, most of all, let us leave tonight knowing we can bless others because of what you've done for us. In your Son's name we pray, amen. You may be seated. All hail the power of Jesus' name. Let angels prostrate fall. Bring forth the royal diadem and crown him Lord of all. Bring forth the royal diadem and crown him Lord of all. He chosen seed of Israel's race, he ransomed from the fall. Hail him who saved you by his grace, and crown him Lord of all. Hail him who saved you by his grace, and crown him Lord of all. Anybody remember the Beach Boys? Yep. Oh, come on! Just because you have white hair might not mean you're energetic. So, does anybody remember the Beach Boys? Yeah! Okay, Sloop John B. You remember the Sloop John B?
Yep.
That salad, did you just put tranquilizers in it? Your endorphins are now in the pool. They're gone. Okay. Well, this is to the tune. It's Psalms 95, and it's to the tune of Sloop John B. So, pretend you're on a little sailboat out on the ocean or out on the river. Come, let us sing to God, our cornerstone, our rock. Oh, sing to the Lord and bless his holy name. Declare his power, his wonders are ours, oh Lord. Give him the glory, let's lift up our praise. You guys do pretty good. Sing to the Lord a new song, worship the Lord alone. Let the heavens rejoice, let the earth be glad. The ocean so wide, the mountains so high, oh Lord. Give God the glory, let's lift up our praise. And do you remember? You know, one of my favorite people in the world is Julie Andrews.
Yes.
If I could pick my mother, I'd have Julie Andrews. Don't tell my mother that. She would be heartbroken. But since you can't pick your parents, you know, it's and one of the neatest things about The Sound of Music, although it is not true to the storyline if you know anything about that, but we won't go there. It is just so adoring. And one of the most adorable, adoring songs is this song where she's sitting on the bed. Do you know which one it is?
Raindrops on rose. No.
Okay, Raindrops and Roses, but what's the name of the song?
Oh.
My Favorite Things. So since you did so good on the Sloop John B, do you have favorite sins? Don't say no, because then you would have a favorite sin called lying. Well, we are going to sing it, and if you need to just giggle, you can just giggle. I will sing it, you will giggle. Gossip and slander and hating my neighbor, cheating and eating and slapping my sister. And it's not just in your lifetime, because I remember we had a chicken coop or a pig pen or something, and we could walk from the ditch all the way across the top, and it was so cool. Okay, this hasn't happened for a while. However, because you're farther north than we are, I know you have the next experience of special winter accommodations. So you can giggle, or you can sing along with me. Sleigh bells ring and I'm listening, but I'm turning and itching. I'm scratching up here, I'm comfortable out there, walking in my winter underwear. No one knows what I'm hiding underneath my jeans I'm finding. I'm warm as can be, toasty and smelly, walking in my winter underwear. Okay, now to be honest, how many still have them on? I am glad to be here. Did everybody get a little purple? Please, if you're bored, don't look like you're reading it, but it is basically what we're going to talk about tonight, and it gives you a resource to go home and remember. Behind you, or behind me, is my family, and I think they're all smiling right now, about that big. We'll start from the one on the right, which they're not in order on both pictures, but I think they haven't changed them much. The one on the right tonight is very relieved. She is done with college. She's done with student teaching. And her parents are relieved because, okay, yes, she has a job. You've been there, you know that. However, the mother is crushed because guess where she's going to go get her job at? Alaska. You guys don't even have imagination. Try Singapore. Oh! There you go. So she, we are very thankful. My brother, my youngest brother, he's really my first child. My parents had one of those, oops, baby blessing boomers, you know, one of those. And so we say he turned out really good because the older kids raised him. So, you know, if you've ever had a younger child, that you know, anyway. So, so he is a CPA for Caterpillar, and he is taking a move to Singapore. So they're doing a 4-year stint, so that got Adley kind of thinking, and she ended up with a contract in Singapore teaching. So we are thrilled, trying to be thrilled. It's not on my bucket list, Singapore. It's nowhere near my want list. It's a 22-hour plane ride. But I am happy and I'm thrilled, and I guess I probably will have to go to Singapore. The boy is, well, he's playing baseball right as we speak. I hope he's playing. He is going to Milligan College in Tennessee to be youth pastor. So Adley has 17 to 20-hour flight. Tyler will have a 17 to 20-hour car drive. He graduates in 3 weeks. And then the green-shirted girl is in St. Paul at a horse expo. She's our horse. We have a horse ministry. So that's for my 3 kids. I'll tell you briefly how I met my husband. I got stuck back in Minnesota when my father died. I had my life planned out. I didn't get God told, obviously, because he missed all the memos. And I got stuck back in Minnesota. And, you know, sometimes when you're in the wilderness, you're kicking and screaming and it doesn't matter. God just leaves you there. That's kind of what happened. So after I was kind of stuck for a while, my dad passed away very quickly. It's like, well, I better do something. I mean, I'm almost 30. I'm not even married. What am I going to do? So I started chasing this coach, and he didn't know he should run. You know, if you're going to chase somebody, that's the best kind of chase, because it's just easy, and it was 3 months and we were married, and that was the end of it. And that's been 25, 24 years ago. Yeah, but it does make a difference. I wouldn't advise that, but we were almost 30 years old, so that kind of makes a lot of difference. I made all my mistakes before I met him, so we just, you know. So Jim Farms, he's driving a tractor, very happy as we speak. So everybody in my family's happy, and I'm here with you guys. So we like to bless people. And one of the things tonight we're going to talk about is being a babe. Now, the babe acrostic is being a blessing every day. I think you figured that out. But we're going to talk about blessings and how to be one. How many people want to be blessed? That salad fork did something, because both of you guys are just kind of go, oh, okay, get them up. We love to be blessed, especially at Christmas time. None of you would be very happy if they passed out presents and there was not one for you. I mean, you'd say, it's okay, I don't need anything, but down inside you kind of go, my husband could have done something. Or some of you've gone so far beyond that, you know they're not going to, and you just, anyway. But I think one of the things, I'm going to get my signals right for my gallon car pointer. You'll think I'm waving at you, and I'm really not. But we want to bless people. But just like anything else in life, we need to be taught. And I think that's the most frustrating thing, is we just think that God gets a hold of our life and it's just going to come out. Well, do you remember when you learned to ride a bike? 2 of you laughed. Yes. Don't tell me they didn't have bikes back when you were a kid. We had bikes, but we had 1 bike and 4 kids. And it was a boy's bike like this, and boy's bike had the thing in the middle. But I had Grandma. And Grandma would push me on this big bike, and then I'd fall over in the grass. Grandma would pick me up, and that's how I learned to ride bike. It's not an automatic. It's just something you have to do over and over again. And the same thing with blessing people is learning to be a blessing. Now, I like this saying. To be blessed means to be favored by God. And we're going to talk about that a lot. Blessings are directly associated with God. And you might not have thought that before, but when you go home tonight, I want you to think about it. If you express a blessing on someone, it's like helping them experience God. And that's some of the things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about 4 different ways. The blessing of giving and receiving hospitality. The blessing of discovering others' lessons in life. And then the 3rd and 4th one, the blessing of forgiving. Now, nobody's hopping up and down on that one, because you know what? A lot of doing and blessing people is fun. Until I have to forgive them? That's hard. And the blessing of blessing those you don't know. Malachi, test me in this and see if I don't open up heaven itself to you and pour out blessings beyond your wildest dreams. Now, we take the Bible verses, and most of the Bible verses I use are from the Message, because I love that. I love the way they state it. It like comes alive in my brain. And I grew up with King James. I can't memorize the Message. I can memorize King James. But, to speak to me, sometimes the Message really comes across. And it's like, Malachi says, test me and see if I don't open heaven itself to you and pour out blessings. Now, how many of you got caught in a gully washer? You know what I mean by a gully washer? Oh, you guys need to get out the rain more. When you get caught in a gully washer, what is dry? Nothing. Many years ago, my oldest was maybe 6, ran into Sam's Club, and Jim stayed in the van. So we came out. I heard it raining. She's very scared of rain. So I thought, we're just going to quit shopping, because have you ever been in Walmart through those things when the rain's coming in? It sounds horrible. Yeah, it scares you. Okay, I'm going to take my daughter, and we're going to go to the van. So it's raining, and I said, do you want to stay here? No, I want to go with Daddy. I guess it's more safer in a van than in a big steel building, but anyway. So we go running through the gully washer, and we open up somebody else's van door. So now she's traumatized 2 times. Can you imagine that's what God wants to do to bless us? Nothing in our lives will be dry if God opens up the heavens and really blesses us with a gully washer. And we don't think about it. We think of, oh, maybe God will give me one little thing. No, God wants to gully wash your life. And let's go to Ezekiel. Ezekiel says, God the Master says, God's the Master. God's a creator. God can do whatever he wants. So this is what he's going to do. He's going to be the shepherd. I am looking for them as the shepherds go after the flocks. When they get scattered, I'm going after my sheep. It's us. I'll rescue them from all the places they've been scattered to in the storms. I'll bring them back from foreign peoples, gather them from foreign countries, bring them back to their home country. I'll feed them on the mountains of Israel along the streams among their own people. I'll lead them in lush pastures so they can roam the mountains, pastures of Israel, graze at leisure, feed in the rich pastures of the mountains of Israel, And I myself will be the shepherd of my sheep. I myself will make sure they get plenty of rest. How many of you would like to be blessed with rest? It's in there, Ezekiel. I'll go after the lost. I'll collect the strays. I'll doctor the injured. I'll build up the weak ones and oversee the strong ones so they're not exploited. That's what our shepherd does for us. And I love this version because it's like we can't bless other people until we fully accept the fact that God has given us gully washers of grace, of love, of forgiveness. And when you are dripping wet from a gully washer and you walk into your house, we've done it many times, what do you see through your whole house? Puddles and mud, and that's what you do to other people. You people can't help but see God dripping off you everywhere when God opens the windows of heaven and gully washes all over your life. Now, it started in Genesis. And Genesis, Abram is ordered to leave his country. Now, I kind of felt like that when I got back to Minnesota. It's like, God, I wanted to live in Iowa. I wanted to stay here. I was going to go back to Alaska. This is where I wanted to be. And God put me back in Minnesota. Viking country. Yay! Now, that clock is almost offensive. I think it's really cute. I might have to try that in church. Our pastor is a diehard Green Bay Packer fan. In Viking land. That's scary. But God told Abraham to go somewhere scary. But what was the promise he gave to him? I'm going to bless you. So when God asks us to go someplace scary, what is our first thing? I don't want to go. Don't make me. You're not going to make me. That's usually what we say to God. I'm digging my heels in. Instead of saying, God, you're going to bless me. And so in the Jewish faith, there was a custom of blessings. Now, I want you to think about our culture and all the issues that our culture has. Every Sabbath, every Friday night, the father of the family would lay his hands on his children and bless them. Can you imagine what our young people in our world would be like if once a week the father sat down with the family and blessed his children? Can you imagine what our culture would be doing? We would have, even if it was a dysfunctional home, which I found out we're all from dysfunctional homes, and my children say it very loudly, you know. Once a week, the family sitting down. And the blessing is to make the child feel special. And you can go back in your life to a time where someone made you feel special and you wanted to explode from within. And sometimes it's so private you can't. But it just made you feel so good. You were blessed. Now, going to the bar mitzvahs. The Jewish tradition is the bar mitzvah, and they had a special blessing. So not only are we blessing them every Friday night, but when they get to bar mitzvah or bar mitzvah, they'd be blessed again. And then there was a whole bunch of other different blessings. The blessings could be a prayer, the prayer could be at mealtime, but it was bringing God's influence into the person's life. And so, because of that, let's go to the next one. Our blessings, when we are going to bless people, we want to release God's power in people. So we can do that by laying them out of our hands. We can do that by blessing of our words. We can do that by blessing of our actions. We can do that a blessing before we eat. We bless our children. And we are a living blessing to others. The Bible study that I teach where I live, we just got done studying Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer wrote a book, and one of the things in his book, he talked about the ministries. And he had several different ministries. And the first ministry was to hold your tongue. And the whole ladies' Bible study went, hold. You can't minister to people until you learn how to hold your tongue. And it was talking basically about living as a community. And that's one of the things that we can bless with all those different ways. We can bless people. But it has to start in the heart and work its way outward. Because we've all had people do things for us, and we felt like they did something for us. And then we've had people bless us, and what a difference. So, we want to encourage you tonight to be a babe. Okay. Yeah, okay. We want you to be a babe. Yeah. And it's not, it's not the babe, it's the be a blessing every day. And how we're going to do that is we are going to ask every day, how can I be a blessing to others? Now, it's very simple, it's very basic because Christ started it out. Christ blessed people with what?
Miracle.
Okay, you can't do that. You cannot, there's no way we can one-up Jesus. I mean, when he's healing the sick and the blind, you can't do that. But he set a precedent. Because when he started doing miracles, he did things in people's life that made a difference. He did not make mints at the wedding. What did he make? Wine. Why would he have made wine? They were out. They were not a mince. I don't know what else they served in there. But a lot of times we try to bless people with things that don't matter. Jesus set a precedent. His miracles made a drastic difference in people's lives. And you've all had people do something for you and they walked away and you thought, huh? But they felt better because they did something for you. If you had a God miracle, how do you feel? Radically changed. It's a whole bit different. Now, Matthew 6, we are basically commanded. We are commanded to do things for people. Be careful when you're trying to be so good that you don't make a performance out of it. If you're blessing people, it's not about you. It might be good theater, but the God who made you won't be applauding. When you do something for someone else, don't call attention to yourself. You've seen them in action, I'm sure. Play actors, I call them. Treating prayer meeting and street corner alike as a stage. Acting compassionate as long as someone is watching. Playing to the crowds. They get applause, true, but that's all they get. When you help someone out, don't think about how it looks. Nike read the Bible. I really don't think so. Now let's talk about the Good Samaritan. How many of you, and I know you're all going to say the Good Samaritan, but how many of you would have probably been one of the other two? If I was raised in that culture, you bet. There's places in Minneapolis that when we drive down the road, we lock the doors. So we probably, admitting the truth, would have probably more inclined to be one of the other two. But the blessing of this is that there was absolutely no way that this man could pay back the Samaritan. And when we bless people, the thing that I've had to work at doing is, I'm going to do something nice, and I'm doing something wonderful and kind, and what is the first thing you're going to say? Thank you, and then you go, well, what can I do for you? We're Norwegian women. I mean, if you serve me, I'm going to serve you. We kind of have this tally sheet going. The Good Samaritan shows us that we do, and we walk away. And sometimes that's really hard for us because some of us don't accept blessings well. I want to be the one that blesses you, but you can't bless me. And some of us do that really, really well. That takes the gift away from her if I refuse to accept someone blessing me. And some of us have to struggle with it because we're very stubborn. There's a few more stubborn people than me, right? Okay. 3, okay. So it's hard sometimes to just accept help. With our second child, I had to be in bed rest for 2 weeks. That's really humbling with a toddler. It's really, really humbling, and there was absolutely no way I could pay people back. There was no way. I'm flat on my back. And one of my friends called and said, I want to do something for you. And she said, what do you need? I said, I don't know. I mean, I'm flat on a bed, entertaining a child while watching, Beauty and the Beast every 3 hours. I knew that very well. I could sing every song. So she came and cleaned my fridge. It wasn't that she really needed to clean my fridge or my fridge needed cleaning. It was just being together. And so there's sometimes that you just do things that you need to do. Now, Paul talks about in 2 Corinthians, this was totally spontaneous, and he's talking about an offering they were bringing, but this is spontaneous, entirely our idea, and caught us completely off guard. What explains it was that they had first given themselves unreservedly to God and to us. Other giving simply poured out of the purposes of God working in their lives. When God is doing a gully washer through you, what are you doing to other people? You should be dripping puddles all over the place. And I don't mean the other puddles, you know, when you laugh so hard, you know. Okay, won't go there. Not those puddles. And then there's another verse. It says, that's what prompted us to ask Titus to bring the relief offering, so that what was so well begun could be finished up. Paul's saying, you start something, finish it. How many of us have unfinished projects at home? I have graduation at my house, so we're finishing projects we started for the last graduation 4 years ago. It's good incentive. You all need to have a graduation or an open house just to finish projects. You do so well in so many things. You trust God. You're articulate. You're insightful. You're passionate. You love us. Now do your best in this too. Think about that. You're articulate. He's telling him you do all things well. Keep doing it. Keep blessing. And then I want to go to the last verse we're going to do, and then we're going to do some practical stuff. Now, I like the version of the message because it talks in a language, my husband's a farmer, okay? So I can relate to. Remember, a stingy planter gets a stingy crop. A lavish planter gets a lavish crop. I want each of you to take plenty of time to think it over and make up your mind what you want to give. That will protect you against sob stories and arms twisting. God loves it when a giver delights in giving. God can pour out the blessings in an astonishing way so that you're ready for anything and everything more than just ready to do what needs to be done. As one psalmist put it, he throws caution to the winds and gives to the needy in reckless abandon. His right living, right giving ways never run out, bless you, never wear out. See, I'm blessing. Get it? That wasn't set up either. That's a good one. I might have to put that. Somebody sneeze in the middle. This most generous God who gives seed to the farmer that becomes bread for your meals is more than extravagant with you. He gives you something you can then give away, which grows into full-form lives, robust in God, wealthy in every way, so you can be generous in every way, producing with us a great praise to God. Does that sound like a blessing, or does that sound just like a ho-hum? Most of our lives have been ho-hum. We've not really looked at God at doing gully washers in our lives. And you know that when God starts blessing you, you can't even keep up with it. Like he told Abram, count the sands along the sea. How do you do that? So we can't even begin to count our blessings. So my challenge to you is to start each day with the prayer. Okay, all together. Who can I bless today? I'm glad you asked. Because we're going to sing a little ditty. Do you guys know the difference between a ditty and a song? Okay, what's a ditty? Okay, Cindy, what's a ditty? Kind of jingles are ditties. Yeah, your advertisements are ditties. Commercials are ditties. And you know what? I have never forgotten. Hefty, hefty, hefty. As the guy is dropping the garbage down 10, you know, how you've seen it. Okay. Anyway. Well, let's go to E. We sang. Okay, E-I-E-I-O. It stands for, go ahead, every incident equals incredible opportunity. We don't want to let one thing go by in our life without turning it to be a blessing. So, are you ready to sing? Yeah. I think this is where we're at. There was a lady who blessed others. E-I-E-I-O. I know you'd get there. You never knew she was undercover. E-I-E-I-O. With a big hug here, a care basket there. Here a smile, there a surprise. You'll never guess where kindness hides. There was a lady who blessed others. E-I-E-I-O. we would harmonize on that last one. Let's try it again. E-I-E-I-O. Gorgeous. So what we want to talk about, and I want to challenge you in some practical ways, practical things that you could do to bless others. The biggest thing is you don't do it on your own power. What do we have within us that drives us? The Holy Spirit. I'm glad you can read. We have the Holy Spirit in us because we know that we start out with good intentions. How many of you started out eating the salad supper by only getting a taste of a few things? And you know how far that got you. And now you're trying to get rid of those pants or binding you, you know? We start out with good intentions. The Holy Spirit is what helps us close the deal. If you're in sales, you're in marketing, you can make a presentation, but if you don't close the deal, what good is it? And that's kind of what all the verses that we read is, God doesn't care about how much you try to start. He wants you to close the deal. He wants you to bless people. And so when you're talking about different events, we have different events. We have anniversaries. Men, we have anniversaries. Sometimes anniversaries are not the exciting wedding anniversaries. I have a friend who is going on 4 months that he married his wife. That's an anniversary. We have anniversaries of, I'll never forget, December 23rd, 1984, when we all sat at the Mayo Clinic and they said, the man came in and told my dad, "You'll live 6 weeks," and walked out the door. You don't forget those kind of things. I can tell you exactly where I was when the doctor said, your child will die. Those are anniversaries. Sometimes we don't think about them, but in the heart of the people who are walking through them, they need to be blessed. Then we have birthdays. And of course, we all love birthdays. We just don't like the anniversaries of our birthdays. See? There's something about doing something special for someone who never, do you know there's people who've never had a birthday party? What a simple thing is to take a cupcake and put a little candle in it and go have a party. Little things that you don't have to, you know, have a, well, what's the latest? Is it Cars, the latest thing now that everybody has their birthdays and the same thing? It's a matter of noticing things in people's lives. Then we have holidays. Holidays, Easter doesn't really matter. 4th of July, nobody cares about. But Christmas, after you've lost a loved one, heavy. Or the first family reunion. Those are things that all you have to do is send a note. I'm thinking of you. We had our second child died, and he died. He was born March 23rd. I got a Mother's Day card from my sister saying, "This will be an awkward Mother's Day. I'm sorry." I would have never thought of that. But you can bet now I think of it. There's quite a few people I know that have buried their children this year. And I don't mean young children. I mean some of you have buried your children. That's awkward. So those kind of holidays mean something. Bless somebody so it touches their heart. Then we have spiritual and physical tough times. If you have walked through a valley with someone and they came out the other side, neither one of you forget it. I was downstairs at a table and somebody was introducing somebody who helped somebody and they only lived with them so long and you know who you were. And it's like, those are things you remember. You never forget. Our children, I had this weird thought that the father should be baptizing the children. And so it just so happened that I was worship leader when my oldest daughter wanted to be baptized, and she chose the day after her normal birthday, because it happened to fall on a Sunday, and we did it as a part of communion meditation. And so it comes time for Tyler. He decided he wanted to be baptized, and he said, "Mom, I want to be baptized in the pool." We had a pool. "I want a campfire and fireworks." And he told me who he wanted to invite. Dad baptized him in the swimming pool. We had a campfire and we had fireworks. He has never forgotten his baptism. So of course, when the younger sister came along, she had to have the same thing, except she didn't have to have a campfire and fireworks. She just had to have food because food was very important to her. But it's those things that you walk through with people. All it takes is just a little bit of blessing. And then we have, it should be toll booth. I think it says toll both. We were leaving the hospital. A friend of ours was dying, and we just spent all our time at the hospital. And we had driven separate cars. And so, you know, this random acts of kindness. So I told the guy at the toll booth, I said, I'll pay for the guy behind me, which was my husband. 4 days later, I finally said to him, aren't you going to ever thank me for paying your toll? He says, oh, I thought it was free that day. And I had spent 4 days waiting to be thanked. So I lost the blessing, you know. But there's times where, you know, we have, the last time I did it was by Stewartville at the McDonald's, and I said I want to pay for the guy behind me, and the lady goes, oh, this is so exciting. I haven't had this one happen for a while. So I paid, and they didn't get much, thankfully. And I shouldn't say that. But I only had so much money, so it's like if they ordered for 25 people, I'm in trouble. And then I tried to get out of the parking lot before they could follow me. Those are just neat things. So anyway, and then if you really need something to do, adopt somebody. Grandpa Frank was one of our most special people for almost 19 years. And every time we talk about Grandpa Frank, people will go, now is that Jim's dad or is that your dad? And we go, it's nobody's dad, we just adopted him. So now we go on to the anniversaries. I have a book somewhere. I'm going to be having all these props up here, and when I'm done tonight, don't hurt each other. But unless I've handed them to you, you can come up and pick up whatever you need, want, desire. But it has to be, in turn, blessed to bless somebody else. You can't just say, oh, I could use that and take it home. You have to bless somebody else with it. My friend Dorothy, her husband was diagnosed with cancer, and it was some kind of a blood leukemia, weird platelet thing. So they were at Mayo a lot. And sometimes Dorothy would come out, they were from Iowa. Sometimes she wouldn't. Sometimes she'd just come shower, take a break. Sometimes we'd go to the hospital. This went on for 18 months. Mike died in January. No, he died in May. So a couple years ago, I think 2 years ago. And I started a book. And every day I wrote a prayer. And when my book was done, I mailed it to her. And she had a book of prayers, and I prayed through just about anything I could imagine. I did it for my other friend first. And I kind of kept track of the days, and so on the month anniversary when he would have passed away, I prayed that God gave her, you know, that takes a little bit of hard effort, but do you have a clue what it did to her? Those are the kind of things that it takes a little bit of thought. But when you start, you talk about a gully washer, I would pray 5 and 6 prayer pages at a time because God would just so full of just, oh, this idea and that idea, and do this and do that. And then there's times where we just happen. They're called happenstances. I want you to, when you hear people, when people talk, do you really go beyond the words? I'll never forget, someone told me that it was a pastor. And as people went out, and he shook their hand at the end of the service, they'd go, oh, blah, 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 and he'd say, my mother died. Go on to the next one. Nobody listened to what he said. Do you ever get the feeling that people are looking you in the eye and it's not there? Or sometimes they're looking everywhere else but. Listen. Go beneath the words. Go beyond the words. See. Keep your eyes open. If you look, it's so simple as today, I don't know where she is now, the little lady that came in and was looking for her group. We see people all the time that just look like they're not sure what to do. And what do? We just walk right by because we're not sure what to do. It takes 30 seconds to be kind and loving. Then taste. What would you like? Of course, you liked all the salads. I'll never forget the time, this was another bed rest story, I was after the baby was born and we were trying to recover. The church was wonderful. They said, we're going to bring you meals for a week. Okay, it's my husband and I and an 18-month-old little girl. We don't eat very much. We got 5 days in a row. 8.5 by 11 cake sheet pan. What is that? 9 by 13. I was never good at math. 9 by 13. So day 1 we got scalloped potatoes. Okay, we'll have lots of leftovers. Day 1 person did not call day 2 person. So guess what we got day 2? 9 by, yeah. So day 2 and day 1 did not talk to day 3. Guess what we got day 3? But that had ham in it. We had 4 days of a cake-sized pan, scalloped potatoes. Friday morning, Lucy calls. She goes, Maurette, what are you hungry for? Not scalloped potatoes. But sometimes put yourself in the people's shoes. What would I want someone to do for me if I was in that situation? And then you do it. And smell. I have that as intuition. How many of you all have had a gut feeling about something and you didn't act on it? Yes. And you feel horrible. I have too many stories to tell you, but I always went and helped with the food shelf. And then Maxine was in a nursing home. She's a lady we grew up with. And so I go help with the food shelf, and then I go to see Maxine in the nursing home. For some reason, that Tuesday, I parked on the wrong side of the street. Do you notice that I said wrong side of the street? Okay. I did something different. And somebody was there interviewing me for some article, and so she was there, and then she had to go. And this voice told me, you need to go to the nursing home. It's like, I haven't even worked at the food shelf much yet. I said, we need to go to the nursing home. After the 3rd time of this gut instinct, I said, okay. I told Audrey, I said, I'll be back later, but I need to go to the nursing home. So I get in my car, parked in the wrong side of the street. I go out and take a left because it's the only way I can go to get to the nursing home. And as I'm driving down the street, Highway 14 going through Dodge Center is extremely busy. It's where all the business trucks come, all the semis. I see this little kid walking along the street, and the first thing I do when I see a little kid is I look for the mother, because usually you see the mom, pushing a cart with 6 other kids in her daycare thing. It's like there's nobody around. And I'm watching, and he's getting closer and closer to Highway 14, and I swung my car, the lady in back of me, I swung my car around, threw it in park, probably didn't do it the way Jim would have said to do it, but you know how it is. I jumped out into the traffic, because I knew if I grabbed for him, he would step away from me, so I stepped out in front as the semi went by me, and he backed up, and he stepped on the curb. 2 years old, the lady in back of me pulled over, and we're both kind of freaking out. I said, do you see anybody? She goes, no. For 45 minutes, I stayed and played with that little boy till the sheriff got there, and nobody ever came looking for him. We went to all the houses. That was 4 years ago, and I have never taken a gut feeling for a second thought again. That really shook me up, because I parked the wrong way, and I almost ignored God telling me to go to the nursing home. See, you want to know the most interesting thing is? I go to the nursing home. Maxine is not waking up. I sit there for another 30 minutes. It was a wonderful time for God to tell me, now, get a grip on it. These are the things that I'm telling you, and do it. And I didn't work at the food shelf that day, and I didn't really visit Maxine because she was kind of comatose. I went back home thinking, whoa. If God puts something in your gut with an intuition, act on it. And you'll have absolutely no clue. And then watch people's feelings. Most people communicate through their eyes. You can tell pretty much what people are thinking by their eyes. So watch them. So let's go on. We can have random acts of kindness. I held the door open for some guy at some grocery store where I stopped to walk around. And he thanked me about 2 times. It wasn't hard. It was just push a door. And then you might have to give a seat. You might have to carry it back. Of course, we can do the McDonald's thing, pay it back, pay it forward. Smile. Now, I want to go to the next slide. I'm going to tell you a story, because my college kid, the one that's graduating, she heard this story probably when she was in high school. And there was a story about a young man who jumped off a bridge. And there was a story behind the story. This young man had left a suicide note. And he said, I am going to walk to the bridge. And if someone smiles at me, I will not jump. But if you find me dead, it's because nobody cared enough to smile. He walked 10 miles to the bridge. So how hard does it hurt to smile? And you know, we fake it really good. He didn't care if it was fake or real. He just wanted someone to smile. And there are times where I always give them. I go to Target and I get the cashier who has absolutely no clue. And the 3 people in front of me, because that's just the way it goes, they're all mad. And I get to her, and by that time, it doesn't matter. And I'll say, "You having a rough day?" And she'll go, "Oh, you wouldn't believe it." And we sit and talk and make the people about to be mad. But it's like, you know what? Chit-chat. De-stress her. Let her breathe. And I was only getting gum. But you know, it doesn't really take much to smile. So, let's see what the kind of perspective. We should have a perspective of one who seeks out hurting people, confused people, lonely people. Always go to the one with a long line with stuff going wrong, because you might be the blessing they need. Unless you're impatient. Then go to the self-serve one. You'll be taught humility real quick. Neglected, and the people sitting beside you in the pew. One day our minister shared that someone came to our church for 6 weeks before they had the guts to walk in the door. Because they were afraid of what they'd find, and they'd afraid they'd be sitting alone. And nobody would care. And of course, about that time, I'm looking out around me going, who was it? Who was it? But I definitely, when I walked out, I told the lady I was walking out with, I love your scarf. And I did like your scarf. It was very beautiful purple. But I'm like, I am not going to be the one who does not talk to somebody who finally got up the guts to walk into church. Afraid that nobody would care about me there. It's a story about the little boy and the neighbor of the older man whose wife died. And the little boy went over to visit the older man, which was his custom to do. And he came back, and the mom said, "What did you talk about?" "Nothing." "Oh, did you read a book?" "No." "Did you have cookies?" "No." And she threw out a bunch of other things. She goes, "Well, what did you do?" "I just sat on his lap and cried with him." And there are times where that's all God wants us to do, is sit on the lap, sit beside somebody, hold their hand. So the needs part, when we get to needs, you guys probably have a bulletin full of people that have needs. It's not hard to find out people that have needs. Things that we're made aware of. I don't think there's a weekend where we live that there's not a benefit for someone with cancer. It's all over the place. And those needs are obvious. But then there's the needs of fires, there's cancer, there's illness, there's a loss of job, there's death. There's needs all around us. And then there's situations. And we have all found ourselves in some of these. Surgery, babies, injuries, places of predicaments. Have you ever got yourself into a predicament? Now, I have had to struggle because we buried Frank June 20th or 19th. My knight in shining armor is gone. What does my husband do? He's a farmer. He's in a tractor somewhere. He doesn't come rescue me. Who did I always call? Grandpa Frank. Called him up one day. "Frank, my car quit. Where are you at?" "I'm at the mall." Frank came, picked me up, took me home. One day we were at Walmart. "Okay, who took my car keys?" "I didn't, Mom, I didn't." We go out to the car, and there they are. Safe. Called Frank. "Frank, come get us." Need a ride home. I knew Jim, this was before cell phones, I knew Jim, Frank's nothing to do. So there's times we all get in predicaments, and that there are people waiting, anxious to bless us. And it is rather humbling when you have to tell somebody you locked your keys in the car again. But when they love you, they don't care. And then there's requests. There are times when people will call you and say, "Can you help me?" And I think the hardest thing I have to do in life is to ask for help. That's very humbling. I mean, I'm kind of ornery and stubborn and opinionated, and you know, it's really hard when you have to say, I need some help. So when someone has worked up all their energy to ask you for something, don't brush them off. Because it might be God using them to teach you a lesson He's been working with. There's people that are lonely. There's people that need prayer. There's people that just moved to town. You guys are in a relatively small community. You kind of know that. So we've kind of talked about major things, okay? Now let's just have some fun. People need to laugh more. For the first time in my life, 3 months ago, I got a new car. I mean, we're talking a new car. We're talking 26 miles. And it's really cool. It is really cool. It has Sirius radio. It's really cool. That will keep me awake all the way home. And there's a comedy section. And there's one of them that's really clean comedy. One day we went to the cabin and we laughed the whole way up. Howled with laughter. People don't laugh enough. So, I think you need to have some fun. I have fun with life. Go ahead. Can you guess which one's me? The blonde. The blonde on the right or the... Yeah. The blonde on the left. And, you know, having fun with stuff. Have you ever gone and got a bunch of these little things and put them in people's lawns? Have you ever forked somebody's lawn? Oh, you guys have a boring life. You go get plastic forks and you put them in some... You gotta wait till it rains, because right now I know the ground is really... You will break all your plastic forks. But show up at somebody's house and put a bunch of these on there when they can't see you, of course, obviously, because it's always funner. But take the gumdrops and just put them somewhere. Go to somebody's house to visit and just have a vase in your purse. You guys all have big purses, right? Yeah. Well, you get a big purse, and you just put it on their coffee table when they're not looking. It'll drive them nuts, and you'll laugh, and you'll laugh, and you'll laugh, and you'll laugh. And you just give somebody something like this and say, "You just cracked me up." But you don't sign your name, and they'll spend hours trying to figure out who would have given me something like that. So I think the biggest thing of having fun, go ahead to the next one, is how can I be a blessing? And how can I do it creatively? Well, obviously we can be physical blessings to people. We can bless people spiritually. We've talked about that. We can bless people emotionally, and we can bless people jokingly, and that's where the fun comes in. There's going to be enough times where you got to cry and bless people. But there's also a lot of times where you can just really, really have some fun times. We're going to show you how you got to pretend you're driving. You have to drive offensively, shop awarefully, visit purposefully, plan accordingly. And that's kind of what I'm going to show you in a couple minutes of be prepared to bless people. Okay, next one. What will it cost you? First of all, if you're going to be blessing others, you're going to be inconvenienced. There's no... when you go to have children, you have to anticipate there's going to be a tantrum and a dirty diaper. You got 9 months to put it in your brain, we're going to have issues. If you're going to bless people, put it in your heart that there's going to be some things that I'm going to have to give up. But is it really giving things up? No, because it's so much fun. You'll spend some money, but you'll also be blessed. Okay, let's go to the next one. How do you find things? You know, you have a wonderful thrift store here. And when I got the new car, I was so thankful because I thought I was going to have some issues with it. It still stops at garage sale signs. It just goes, yeah, you know. And I had to remember to turn on my blinker, so I had, yeah. So, but I think also, when you look around your house, you probably have enough that you could bless people for a while and not miss too much. It's called downsizing. Okay, next. So how do you teach your kids? And I think this is probably the biggest one. Now, some of you guys are older and your kids you've already failed, but you can start now. I think getting them involved and ask them, what should we do for Ethel? What would be fun to do for Ethel? A Dairy Queen cake, you know? Well, Ethel may not like a Dairy Queen cake, but you know what? She'll eat it because that little boy thought that Ethel needed a Dairy Queen cake. And he'll never forget that Ethel thought it was important. And get them to be the doers. And this is the one that I love because some of you know Ron and Rosalie Ornament. We made cute little reindeers out of logs. And you had holes drilled. And we made 3 of them, and then we secretly delivered them to people's porches. And Ron and Rosalie's especially, we put it around the back of their house. That's when they lived in 6th Avenue. And we put it right so when they opened, when they looked out their patio door, here's this darling little reindeer. Tyler was about 6. And they snuck it on. Ron and Rosalie did not see us. We were thrilled. Sunday he goes up to Ron at church. Did you find what we left on your porch? Tyler, it was supposed to be a surprise. But when you get kids involved, it definitely makes it exciting. Well, some of you drive by people, and I don't know if you have them here, but we have them in Rochester all over the place. You drive by people that are have signs that say need work, or So we did this for our Bible study, and I obviously haven't given this away because it's all It has about 3 Bible verses in it. It's just a sack, and it has all sorts of like granola bars, Nutter Butter peanut bits, apple granola bars, some gum. It is giving them something with Bible verses inside, but I don't feel like I'm enabling them because I don't know them. But it's me giving something. If they really need work and they need food, there's some snacks. Really thought it was kind of interesting. I don't normally buy the Women's World, but I had to because it says down here, make someone happy. Our world definitely needs to be happy. All you have to do is take some flowers, put a little flower in them, go to the nursing home, talk, and then listen. Put a little cookie tin, just put it in their mailbox and run. Well, don't run because you might get hurt. But, doing things for people is not hard. My father always said to me, give them flowers they can smell. In other words, don't send me funeral flowers, I'm not there. So just give people flowers. I hope you're not allergic, my dear. Give people flowers. There's something about flowers that perk up your heart. And why? Because they're beautiful, because they smell awesome, but more because they're a gift. Do any of you guys have a bucket list? How are you doing on it? Well, at least you have one. Look at all these other people just sitting there. Last Saturday I went to a bridal shower, and it was really, really cool. They did the whole bridal shower based on the time of the day. My gift was 7 p.m., and then all these other people had different times. It was really cool. I gave them the movie. It was all movies and popcorn I gave them. But then I had it typed out really beautiful. Katie's bucket list, Sam's bucket list, Sam and Katie's bucket list. For them to plan ahead and do things together and anticipate. Sometimes what your gift to somebody is encouraging them to use their gifts. Sometimes your gift to them is to get them to think about what their future is. It's not always just, cookies and cake and candy, which is, of course, wonderful. And then if all else fails, you can go to the next one. Dear friend, I was in a hurry because time was running out. I'd baked a batch of cookies for you, and when I turned about, I saw they'd fallen on the floor. It made me want to shout. How could this happen at this time when time was running out? I couldn't throw them in a trash. Whatever could I do? I quickly swept them in this can. And I'm giving them to you. Now, how hard is that to do? It's really not hard, is it? It's something fun. It's something simple. Go to the next one. Find a bowl and determine that you are going to have a blessing bowl. A bowl that reminds you something beautiful. You can make it be something as simple as Tupperware. You can find a beautiful basket. But make it be, this is what my focus is going to be. I am going to bless other people. And just to help you, we're going to sing one more fun little song before I read you the ultimate blessing of all. Of course, showers of blessing. And I hope you never forget the gully washer, but sing it with me. There shall be showers of blessing. I shall be passing them on, lovingly serving my neighbor, giving my heart all day long. Showers of blessing we need. Be the hands Jesus is using, be the God others can breathe. So that's my challenge to you. And I would like to close by reading a devotion. I started writing these stories many, many years ago. When I would lead worship, I would tell stories and people would say, well, have you got it written down? Of course not. So that started the devotions, and it's been going about, well, since '99. So I have 2 or 3 more books technically that I need to get going, but time. I'm busy. But this probably is one of the most powerful ones I wrote many, many years ago. And it's called, Who's Gonna Drunk the Scrap Bucket? Tyler Bailey and I headed for Iowa this past week while Adley stayed home with Dad. Our first stop was a special friend's house. I remembered her since I were little. Our families were close. Grandpa Walt will always be an icon of faith in my memory. They hauled me around while I went to college in a town close by. They took me out to eat, let me crash at their house, and just be a part of the family. 2 of her daughters were at the farm, and we had a wonderful time of sharing. One daughter stepped out for a minute, and when Grandma asked where she had gone, she said to dump the scrap bucket. At that comment, she and the other daughter burst into hysterics. I was told the rest of the story. And I think Charlotte was about 89 at this time. So I'll give you a frame of who Grandma is and the daughters, in their 60s. Grandma had not been feeling well and was depressed. She didn't know for sure why, but she had a rough week and she was down. She and the daughter headed into town to shop. Grandma had been living alone at the farm since Grandpa died. She was alone with her walker in an old farmhouse. Everyone had been telling her it was much better if she would move to town. She was planning to stay on the farm and, like all farmers, die with their boots on. As they were driving home, she said to her daughter that perhaps they needed to stop and check on the living-assisted houses in town. Her daughter about dropped her teeth. "Whatever made you change your mind, Mom?" she said. Grandma simply said, "My scrap bucket is full." Beside her sink was a 5-quart pail she put her scraps in. It was almost impossible for her to carry the scrap bucket, move the walker out of the house over the rough ground to where she'd throw the scraps over the fence. Her scrap bucket was full, and combined with a bad week, it seemed like she just couldn't make it. Of course, once she said it and realized how foolish it was, they were laughing so hard they almost had to pull over alongside the road. We all have scrap buckets that get full. The secret of living fulfilled lives is how we empty the scrap buckets. To her, it was someone stopping to check on her, someone to make sure the car was running. Her daughter and son-in-law had come to remodel the steps to make it easier to get out with her walker. The other daughter got to do the lesser of the glory jobs, dumping the scrap bucket. And yet, the little things in life, like scrap buckets, are what seem to be the most important. Galatians 6:2, carry each other's burdens, and in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. I looked around me at the people I see and wonder, how full are their scrap buckets? I wonder if they think about my scrap bucket. We get so busy with life, we forget the important things in life are each other. I walk into church and someone smiles and says, "Hi, how are you?" Do they really want to know? Are they seeing if my scrap bucket needs dumping? Do we really care about each other enough to pick up the garbage from each other's lives and dump it over the fence? Do we love each other enough to dump a scrap bucket? Last Tuesday's scrap bucket story has stayed with me, and it goes far beyond the funny story. I need to ask my friends more often, how can I empty your scrap bucket? I need to do more to make their loads lighter. I can't do a lot, but I can do something. When your scrap bucket is full, the rest of the world looks pretty tough. Such a simple act of love, dumping someone's scrap bucket. Would you pray with me? Lord, you know, we are so proud. We love it when people do stuff for us, and then we walk by people who really need us to return it, and we just don't get it. Lord, help us to really care enough about people to dump their scrap buckets. Lord, help us love people enough to not want to keep all the gully washing that you've done over us to ourselves, but to just walk through people's lives and let it drip all over the floor, and just let your blessings drip all over other people. And Lord, help us as we leave tonight to have people in mind that we can bless, whether it's spending time with them or just shutting up and listening. And God, give us the courage to, when you urge us, to do what we know we need to do. And Lord, I'm just thankful that you have given us hearts that seek you. And that's our first step, is to desire to seek and to bless. And Lord, I am just so thankful that you have blessed me. And I thank you for the abilities you've given me, and I'm grateful. And now, Lord, just help me want to help the people I don't know, maybe that I don't like, and maybe on a day when I'm just seemingly too busy. Remind me what life's about, and it's not about life. It's about you. Your son's name.